good morning, and great morning. Guys, welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies radio show. Hey, I am your host, Corwyn J. Mallette, broker and owner of Exit Realty, Low Country Route in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, if this is your first time listening to this show, hey, you, sir or ma'am, are in for a treat. That's because our mission, yes, we have a mission, is very simple, and that is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education, guys. We are legacy building, and that is what we do. So, guys, look, I've told you, and we have been delivering, and I'm going to keep talking about it because we keep doing it. And that is because we care about you. We have scoured, we have cast wide nets, we have yelled from the mountaintops that we want to bring the best guests to our listeners here at Exit Strategies Radio Show. And today I am extremely humbled. I am extremely honored to have this gentleman on with us to touch on and share what his organization does to help empower people with financial literacy. So I have none other than Vince Shorb, the CEO of National Financial Educators Council. Vince, how you doing today, my man?
Corwyn, good to be here and appreciate all that you're doing in this space. So thank you.
Well, no, thank you. So look, you're a busy guy. I know it. We know it. And I really appreciate you taking time out to be with us and our listeners today. So if you don't mind, give our people, our listeners, an introduction to who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, happy to do so. And I'll skew it toward the real estate side because that was really my initial passion in really anything to do with finance. I remember in the back of classes, I was reading my dad's foreclosure books, right? So I was, forget science, forget history, I don't care. I was interested in money, foreclosures, real estate, so forth. That's where it started. My grandfather made an investment in me, bought me this course. It's like one of those seminar-based courses. We went there, like $1,000 package. I read that thing 20, 30 times. Ended up buying real estate. In my teenage years, first was a little piece of land in New Mexico. I still have. It's worth nothing, but that was my first investment, right? I didn't know how to really evaluate things at that time. My next was a small property in Arizona, which was a rental. And then I bought a home I lived in at 20. So I really enjoyed that time because all my friends were asking me about this. All my parents' friends were asking me about, hey, how do I buy a home? How do I do these things? And I really enjoyed that process of educating people. Although I knew the higher end investment type, how to do it, I lacked some basic money management skill sets. Like one thing was important, I learned the hard way, is not to make riskier investments with credit card fronted money. The interest rate high. It takes a lot of big returns to do. So I made some mistakes. It put me behind the eight ball. And I really went through years of struggle to really maintain what I had and just avoid, worried about, hey, if my car's going to break down, how am I going to get gas to go to school? And those years of struggle really inspired me to get into financial services. And I ended up in the mortgage sector my last handful of years. And I realized that my story was not unique. There's a lot of people out there that were making simple, dumb, easily avoidable mistakes. And even people that owned multiple pieces of real estate, went through the refinance process many times. They were still asking me very basic questions. And that's when I just got burnt out. My mom reminded me of my time in high school where I was frustrated at what I was learning. That's when we founded the National Financial Educators Council back in 2006, and glad to be here with you here today.
Well, thank you. At the council, what do you guys focus on? What is it that you hope to accomplish with it as well? And I got to get back on this other side about your investing because I know our listeners love that stuff. But what are you guys focused on as far as assisting people? And what do you hope to accomplish, I guess, overall with the mission?
First, it's to increase access to quality financial education for all ages. So we start as young as 3 years old, all the way through the ages. So we increase access by doing a few things, training educators. So we put educators through training so they can teach personal finance effectively. We increase access by training coaches to coach people one-on-one. So maybe people that don't have that money to invest or that money to purchase real estate, they really have nowhere to turn. So make sure they're trained and have the resources to educate adults. And we also partner with financial service industry people to donate resources to local communities. And our focus is really scaling programs. And how we increase the access is not only by delivering the resources, we also do bigger advocacy campaigns. You may have seen the one we did here last month with Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful. He did a video for us, which was great, really promoting financial education and also through relationships. I know you're a big relationship builder, and that's a key thing for us too, from the policy side to the advocacy side to those teachers, to the nonprofits, to the faith-based groups that are in these communities. It's those relationships are really key to help us promote financial literacy and get people more educated on money.
I love what you guys are doing. I have this conversation often. Schools have gotten away from this. One of the things that kids come out of high school, it's impressive now. And I think it seemed like I remember this in high school, that they taught us how to write checks. They taught us how to balance a checkbook. Those are things that we had to learn and had to do. Now, people don't carry and write checks like they used to, at least not younger generations. Older folks still do. That's some, hey, I got a checkbook in the car. And they're ready to go. But outside of that, people don't. So we're not educating our kids. Our kids are living off the app. So when they open a bank account, whatever's in the mobile app, that's what they think they got to spend. They go spend it and may not remember that, hey, I charged something, swiped a card for something that charge hasn't posted yet. So I did that yesterday. I'm thinking the money's already gone. So I'm spending what I see there and I may overdraft my account. That's huge that you guys are doing that. So let me ask you this very broad question. And you may know the statistic. I don't, but if you do, please share it. But what is the statistic of children in high school now that are receiving this type of training and information across our country, or any specific area you want to target?
Basically, we analyze every 50 states, and about 20 states have mandated financial literacy programming. And of those, other organizations rate ABC scale. We say every state absolutely fails. They fail for a number of reasons. One, they don't have qualified educators teaching, right? You can't take somebody from math to teach personal finance. 1 + 1 = 2 in math. The difference is with personal finance, everybody has different habits, behaviors, different financial situations, socioeconomic upbringing. So it's not that analytical, logical thing. As you know, people make emotional decisions. So they don't have qualified teachers. Most of the states are unfunded mandates. Most, they don't have testing requirements. The biggest one, there's not enough time and rigor required. So, all these people in this industry, financial education, applaud when some state has like a 10-hour financial literacy course. I'm like in the back, I was quoted in Forbes saying, hey, that's not going to do anything, right? Imagine trying to speak Spanish after 10 hours. And the reality is with money, it impacts 100% of students where a subject like science, advanced geometry, algebra, all these things that impact such a small amount. Science, people that leverage their degree to earn income, less than 6%. Math, less than 25% need anything higher than 8th grade level math. So we're teaching subjects that are absolutely useless when money impacts everybody from a very core human perspective need. So I would say I'm not on the positive side, although I'm a positive guy. We have to be real with what these states are doing and what they're failing on. And that's a big mission that we're doing, is really trying to say, hey, states, here's the framework to build out quality programs. And we did that because we're the only accredited provider in this space. And that means something when these states are just relying on policymakers to make up what's being taught. No, there's processes, procedures, there's best practices. Let's follow that to make sure these kids are getting the education they deserve.
What I just heard in that is so true. And I'm a paraphrase, but essentially, legislators are not engaging the experts in the field. They're making decisions that oftentimes don't turn out to be the right decisions. You got local school boards, you have state legislators, and I can imagine even at the national level, there's certain things that's being put into place that may counteract what you're doing from the grassroots level. Is that fair to say?
That is, and just to tie in one thing that you mentioned about check writing, in a few states that's still taught.
What happened?
that check writing's still taught in their financial literacy programs. Like, okay, it's a new age, right? Check writing isn't a safe way to manage your finances. Yeah, my parents still write checks. Yeah, it's for that generation, but it's still taught. It's still integrated in some financial literacy curriculum. And we all know that's not current event that should be taught. We can make space for something else, but just kind of silly to spend an hour teaching them how to write checks when that's absolutely not needed in today's age.
Do you want something more? I mean, more meaningful moments, opportunities, deeper relationships, and memorable experiences. Do you want to make a difference? If you said yes to any of that, a career in real estate could be the opportunity you're looking for. Guiding people through one of the most important decisions they ever make, the purchase or sale of their home, could be both rewarding and lucrative for you. Exit Realty's revolutionary compensation model, training, and technology provide you with the tools and resources you need to start and build your successful real estate career. Call Exit Realty Low Country Group today at 843-619-3005. That is 843-619-3005, or visit join.exitlowcountry.com and make your exit today.
Look here, for the amount of checks that most people write nowadays, you probably can do it in about 15 minutes versus an hour. It does not need that much time because it's very rare. But case in point, I changed banks a number of years ago. It's been a long time. And when I changed banks, I didn't even order checks for the personal account. Not for the personal account.
Yeah.
For business stuff, yes, but personal account at all. So when I need a check, I enter the person's bill pay and have the bank send them a check.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
As I found one, I didn't pay for a bunch of checks that may be sitting around, which means that they could be compromised.
True.
That's one. Number two, I'm not even paying for the check that I'm having them send. The bank on the bill pay doesn't charge me for that.
Yeah, true.
So, so it's like, okay, well, I saved some money and also limited my risk in that. So that's interesting. You should say that, though, that the curriculums that are still in existence, what I heard was they're outdated, they're antiquated, so they need to be updated.
That's one of the big problems out there, and times are changing so rapidly, and if we look at the subjects that they're teaching in school, we go back 100 years, they're still teaching the same subjects, right? Yeah. We have Chat GPT, we have computers, right? I think the whole education system should have been changed by then, something like real estate. And if we look at the path for how most people achieve financial security in their life, it's real estate, right? Don't you think, hey, if we're really concerned about protecting our kids, wanting the best future for them, we would teach a subject like that. Of course, I'm bigger into broader money management topics too, but I would also include, hey, let's get real estate and other topics in there so they understand how to start a business, how to invest, and replace some of these outdated, antiquated subjects that aren't going to benefit them at all in the future.
So two things, a trade and how to manage the money you make from it. Yeah. Put those two things together and we change the entire dynamic. Not every child is going to college. We know that. And the ones that go, while we do embrace, even still, they go to college, teach at the college level. Okay, how are you going to apply this knowledge? What does application look like? And then past that, how to manage the finances, because there's some kids coming out of college making 6 figures a year. Boom. There's some that's coming out of college barely making 5. And both of them need financial management skills. Both of them. Because just one person got more to manage. But both of them still have the need.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there with that career and trade education, where we include that in financial literacy. So financial literacy, it's kind of a broad term for us. I think career and trade education is critical. To your point, a lot of people, they'll go to college, they'll switch majors several times, which costs them more money because they have never been exposed to these other topics. And a survey here recently where it compared what kids in the U.S. want to be compared to what kids in China that live in China want to be. And China was like rocket scientists and molecular engineers, all this high tech type stuff. In the U.S., the number one was a YouTube influencer. Up there was an athlete, a celebrity. The only one that was like a trade was teachers. And we had this conversation with our advisory board. It's like, hey, why teachers amongst this list of all these other athletes, YouTube influencer? The reason we came up with, and I'll let your audience make their own determination, but was the fact that that's the only other profession they're really exposed to on a mass scale is teaching. And that career education, allowing kids the ability to explore things they may or may not like. I've worked with people that had their law degree, that spent all the time getting the law degree, and then they go into the working profession. They're like, I don't like this, right? We could have helped them explore that early on and so forth. So your point on trade education is critical. Money in, how you manage it, how much you save, and how we can make that grow and invest for us.
Yeah, apprenticeships and stuff. So I want to make sure we get back in on what this company does, but I also want to get some more of your experience as it relates to investing and stuff as well, because all of this stuff is relevant. The lessons that you're teaching now, you learn the hard way in your investing. I find that fascinating. Most times it's the opposite way. You want to learn it and then go apply it, but you learned it. So you learn the application of it. So you kind of backtracked yourself into it. So your company, you guys are amazing. Like, you have all this information, all these certifications, all these things that you do, again, to help champion financial literacy within our communities. You're quote unquote, you're the teacher for the teacher. True. So how do you find, one, I mean, is this something that you have a lot of engagement with is one question. The second part of that is, give me an example of what you've seen as the impact of what your organization does.
Yeah, I think the biggest impact that we're making really is how people are in the whole industry are teaching, educating, and promoting financial wellness. You know, I think before you'd get up to a financial literacy presentation, financial education presentation, it'd be death by PowerPoint, right? People would be walking through slides and so forth. Even when they're coaching, it's more like talking to them. But the beauty of education, there's best practices teaching that align nicely with other skill sets that financial professionals have as far as sales and so forth. So there's ways that we can address not only their content knowledge, their behaviors, their confidence, the systems they have established. So really taking a look at people's finances from a holistic perspective, and not just, hey, gain knowledge on credit, because somebody can have knowledge on credit. They can know, hey, there's 3 credit bureaus, there's 700 is a pretty good score, you should pay your bills on time. That's one level. Where we want to drive is toward higher order thinking skill sets, where people know, how do I get my credit report? How do I analyze it? How do I set up systems to either improve or maintain a good credit? So that higher order thinking skill sets is where we're really trying to drive the industry, is to push people toward empowering people so they're confident to make the decisions that they need to make to achieve longer term goals. They have a plan in place, and they modify or mold positive behaviors to reach that plan. So the key thing we're trying to do is raise awareness. It's not just literacy. Even though we use that term over and over, it's these other factors that really, and you see it on the real estate side all the time. It's, hey, they may know something, but it's like, can they apply it and can they benefit from it? And that's really what we're trying to drive in this industry.
That is massive. So, as you touched on some of this a little early, Vince, about a quote unquote, the lessons that you've learned along the way. So you started investing early. I love that. I tell people what got me to real estate. My grandfather was a carpenter. I used to work on houses with him. But I hated working on houses as I got it. So I didn't ever want to learn the trade. But I used to build houses and stuff with him. I did flooring. I put roofs on. I mean, I did all of that stuff. Carried up and down the ladder, skedaddle on the house. You look at me now, you'd be like, nah, boy, you ain't been up in the house. But for what it's worth, I took from him the business part of it, the interaction with people. He also oversaw properties for people, property management. So I took that part of it, and my application to people tied to my knowledge about houses is what got me into real estate. And I got in with similar. I wanted to be an investor. I got licensed, and I realized, wait a minute, I can help people do what I want to do, which is I want to invest in real estate. Everybody in this country that has wealth and means, they might not have started with real estate, but real estate sustains because God ain't making no more dirt.
Yeah,
so
true.
With that, you learn lessons. Okay, well, look, this ain't the way for me. And it's not a one size fits all. You know that, I know that. Our listeners, they need to understand that the way that you go or went might be for some of them, may not be for all. So your exploration into real estate, again, started at a very young age. What was the first type of property that you acquired?
It was that small piece of land, but I'd say my first property was a real property, was a condo in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it was a 28,000, might be $38,000 FHA, minimal qualifier, 3% down, that type of deal. And it was almost break even, right? And I kept that for quite a while. And my second one was in Huntington Beach. I was a bus boy. I might have been a waiter at the time. I might have been right about that transition. But one of the guys there was a realtor. I always pick his brain, right? He was always eating at the counter. Real nice guy. He'd always feed me a lot of information, give him a little extra stuff on the side. Good guy. And he said, hey, there's your property going up down the street for people that haven't ever owned a primary residence. I'm all perfect. I've never owned a primary residence. So I found a partner, a buddy at the gym, and he wanted to buy something too. And we ended up purchasing a 2-bedroom condo there. And I bought him out a couple years later when he moved. But that was really the process. And you mentioned something that's very interesting. And I think a lot of people need to think about this. There's many different ways to participate in real estate, right? Those fixer-uppers, there's a rental property, there's a primary residence, there's flipping, there's pre-construction investing, all these different things. And I think everybody sees, hey, I just need to buy a home first. My path to this was rental, just because I didn't have the money to buy a home. I was, at that time, I definitely was a busboy. When I was a waiter, I was able to purchase that my primary residence at 20 years old. So it's a process, and you'll find kind of what you enjoy as well, where your risk is, what you feel comfortable with. But I always tell people, you need to understand the mortgage process, and you need to understand basic real estate, right? And being able to identify areas of potential growth and so forth. You're not always right and so forth, but the more knowledge you have going in, the better questions you can ask of people like your professionals, like Corwyn here, and other people that you're going to be dealing with.
We're quickly getting towards the end of the show, so I don't want to get past the opportunity here for you to plug your company. How can people get in contact with you? So if you don't mind, how can people connect with you, with your organization?
So anybody that feels a passion for promoting financial education, financial literacy coaching, getting out in their communities, my personal LinkedIn is Vince Shorb, just as you see it on the screen here. Also, you can go to our website, financialeducatorscouncil.org. And again, we attract those people that are passionate about wanting financial education in their communities. Also, we work a lot with financial service personnel that are looking to be involved in the financial wellness movement. So thanks for that opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So Vince, I have this thing that we have been doing for last several weeks. I frame it as the mic drop, and you probably got several of these. It's that thing that if you would have known it way back yonder when, would have completely changed the trajectory and would have you in a completely different place now, much further than where you are. And I always know that we have to do the things that we have done in order to get to where we are on the way to where we're going. But sometimes if you could look back and change one particular thing, you really believe that you would already have surpassed where you are today. So if you could share with our listeners, what is that for you?
Yeah, for me, I really got sidetracked with school. I was very entrepreneurial minded at a young age. I was always that. And I ended up going to college and spending a lot of money and studying some things I got value out of very little. And it sidetracked me about 7 years. I was working full time and doing other things as well, always starting businesses and doing some activity. But I felt that really sidetracked me and distracted from my true nature. I mean, I spent a couple years, I'm like, okay, now I got this degree. I'm going to get into a career, right? Like, that wasn't me. I quickly realized that I was off course and recorrected it and took action to fix that. But I would tell young people, hey, just consider the options. You can get a high grade education by reading books, YouTube videos, even Harvard has their classes online. A lot of them, if you want to study Harvard-based class or high Ivy League type classes, you can do so online. So just make sure you have a plan first. I wish I would have had a more conviction in my plan and more faith in myself early as far as my ability to create businesses, to invest and create things that a better society. And I got sidetracked for a little bit, but I'm on the right track now. and nothing's stopping me now. So I really hope that gets through some of your younger listeners because they're here, right? You have a big influence. I've seen many of your podcasts and other interviews, and it's like people are following you. I think that young people, you can be a very positive influence to following a path toward yourself. And if that involves college, that involves a trade school, if that involves alternative education, great, do it. I wish I would have had that advice at 18, 17, 16-year-old, but I'm glad to share it now.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. Vince, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the show with us today. I've had a great time with you, and you've shared some amazing insight for our listeners. So, Vince, one more time, thank you for taking time out to be with us today.
Corwyn, it's been an honor. Appreciate everything you're doing and look forward to talking here again with you soon.
Please, thank you. So for our listeners, guys, hey, y'all know how we feel about you. Y'all know what we say. And we always like to put those two things together and do it this way, which is, I love you, I love you, I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.